Today we are going to be installing the Yitamotor front and rear crossbar set for a 2011 to 2018 Jeep Grand Cherokee, the limited and overland editions only due to the attachment points on the roof. These are the attachment points that are on the overland and the limited only. As you can see, it's the nice metal rail that has a channel that everything can mount to. This morning we are going to unbox the roof rack out of the box and see how the manufacturer did here. So, open it up. We got instructions in here. Everything's nice and bubble wrapped. Extra foam over there just to kind of protect it. Everything looks good. And then underneath this, we should have the keys and the Allen key for the install. This uses a 4mm Allen key. Okay, now we've got it out of the box. We can see what we have. We have the instruction manual. And then we have both the crossbars here. Rubber looks really good. Everything looks really, top of the line product here from what I can tell. As I'm looking over it, it's got weight load ratings. Looks like 165 pounds. Now we flip the product over. We can see the underside. You can kind of see where all the brackets and everything that are going to be used to attach it to the vehicle. And then we can see here, we got a rear bar with the forward edge pointed forward. And then over on this one, we have a label on the front bar that lets us know which way the bar goes. Okay everybody, we have the tools needed to install this. I used a little step ladder here just to make it safer so I can get up and easily work on the top of the vehicle. We got the instructions that it comes with, the keys that it comes with, the 4mm Allen key that it comes with, and I had just a little pocket screwdriver or a pick would work just to aid with the rubber seal a little bit as you're removing it and putting it back in. The reason this is for a limited and overland only is because the limited and overlands come stock with the nice metal rail up top that the attachment points attach into. Now we got the product stood back upright. First thing we're going to do is we're going to use this little screwdriver or a pick or something. You pull the rubber back here. It's going to let you have access to these two Allen screws. The inside one you just need to loosen, the outside one you need to completely remove. Once you completely remove it, you end up with the bolt, the attachment point for the vehicle, and then the rubber piece that helps dampen it against the chassis. So as you can see here, I've removed the end cap. Once I remove the end cap, it's simply putting the key in flat, turning it 90 degrees, and then grabbing the cap and removing it. At this time I can show you, with the full rubber completely seated down in the hole, you can see the little ears there that come down and hold on to the metal part of the roof rack. Once we remove that portion, you can peel this up. We loosen the bolt, the inner bolt, take the outer bolt completely out, and when you take the outer bolt completely out, it gives you the rack and the bolt to put everything back together. Prior to installing it, I set the roof racks up here to get approximate position. The tape mark I put here is the forwardmost position of the rack so it doesn't hit the inside of the plastic here. We're going to take the metal bracket. It's going to slide down in the channel and then it's going to rotate. So it's going to go in and rotate into the channel. Once you get the rotated into the channel on all four corners, in preparation for installing the rack on the vehicle, I've set it up here and got my approximate location so I can make sure I have good clearance around all the plastic rubber. And I've marked it with a blue piece of tape that marks my forwardmost location. Now that I've marked the location of where the forwardmost position of the rack is, I'm going to take my removed black bracket that I had earlier and I'm going to slide it down under the channel like that in preparation for installing the roof rack here shortly. Okay, now that I've taken the end cap off, pulled the rubber back, pulled the metal bracket and the bolt out, one thing I just want to point out is you have this nice little rubber gasket that sits in here. You just have to make sure it's down in all the channels and everything's where it should be, so when you put it up on the roof it has a nice soft seal against your roof rack and doesn't hurt your vehicle. Okay, now that I have the metal piece put in there, I'm going to set the rack down on top of it. We can see where the bolt needs to go, so we'll just grab the bolt that I have sitting in the rail right here. We'll just go ahead and drop it down in the hole here. And then once you get started, we'll start to tighten everything down, and then we'll position it to make sure it fits correctly on the chassis. Once we get it up on here, we're on the second bolt here, so we're just gonna turn this down. And as we turn it down, it's going to get closer and closer to the chassis. You'll just want to slowly tighten it down. You know, as you start to see it, you know, get down a little bit, you kind of just need to make sure you shake a little bit, get it positioned where you wanted. And then you just keep going back and forth to the left and right side of the cars, and eventually it'll be tightened down. Okay, as you can see here, we got everything tightened down. Everything's getting snug here. After you get it all positioned and, you know, set up where you want it in the vehicle, then you'll tighten both of those bolts down, just enough to give them a good snug, you know, just to make sure everything's tight, and then come back and check them probably in 1,000 miles of driving. So we got the front bar almost all the way installed here. One thing I just want to note, you know, we're not completely tied down yet, but I just want to note down here on this inner edge here, you just have to make sure the rack is pushed far enough towards the rear of the car. This is the front rack, so you're not tight and damaging your roof rack. Okay, now that we've fitted the rack to the roof rack, we can see it's all tightened down. With it all tightened down, we have good clearance. You know, it's not hitting, you know, that inner edge. Then what we're gonna do, we're gonna pull back the plastic again. Just make sure the outer bolt is good and tight. And then we're going to put it on the inner bolt. We're gonna tighten the inner bolt completely up. Get that good and tight there. Everything's good and tight. And now we can put the rubber back down. Okay, now we almost have the rubber fully back installed. What I'm gonna do here is you're gonna push down. As I'm pushing down here, you're gonna see the little rubber feet come back around the metal bottom. And you can see the nice flush fit across the top of the chassis. Once you have the rubber fully installed and sitting in there, you're gonna grab the end cap. You're gonna slide the end cap in. You're gonna turn the key 90 degrees. And then the end cap is locked in there. And there we go. We got the front bar installed on the vehicle. Looks nice and smooth and fits nice to the chassis. And so now that we got the front bar installed and all tightened down and put back together, we're gonna go back to the rear. I did the same thing in the rear I did in the front. I set it up on the chassis to, you know, mark approximate position for this inside corner of hitting. You know, we drop the metal bracket down in there, set it back over. We just want to make sure our rubber seal is still all up in there, not falling out. And then we grab the bolt like we did before. You can see the two holes. Find the one hole, get the outside one that holds the bracket in, and then start tightening the bracket. Okay, now we've got the roof rack fairly tightened down. You know, all the rubber's sitting where it's supposed to. You know, all the channels and everything there. Same thing I did in the front. We will just go ahead and focus in right here. So just like in the front, we just want to verify that our rear inside corner on both the left and the right are not touching the roof rack, you know, as we tighten it down. Just be aware of that. So as we're getting the rear of this installed, we just want to make sure we come around and look on this inside edge here. Make sure the inside edge is far enough away from it as it's fully tightening down. So you might have to adjust a little forward or rear as you're doing it. And once again, this is the rear bar. And here is the final install of both the front and rear roof racks on the vehicle. And here we have the roof rack fully installed on the vehicle. Front bar pushed to the forwardmost position, rear bar pushed to the rearmost position. All tightened down, everything's good and snug, and we're ready to load some stuff on this. Thanks everybody for watching.